Greetings, I am Solidus Skully, and who's ready for some radical extreme action? Yes, it's a game that I can pretty much pick up at any time of the year, but yes, it is Shadow the Hedgehog, or Shadow the Hedgehog, a game that has been constantly under fire, but it's a game that ever since I first played in 2005, I have loved, basically from the moment I picked it up. I mean, I remember renting the game out back when it first arrived. It is very nostalgic. And again, I'm really only talking over the intro because I don't think I did that for Sonic Adventure, but anyway. Part of the reason why I'm talking over the intro is also to explain a few things, and why I'm calling this part the Canon storyline. As you'll soon come to know, Shadow the Hedgehog has multiple storylines, something that is actually a bit of a criticism about the game, which I'll get to in due time. Anyway, the reason why I'm calling this the Canon storyline, and why this commentary is going to be so short, is because I'm going to be focusing on one specific pathway in terms of, you know, actual cutscenes and storyline. I will be covering the rest of the levels, just not in the immediate future. Again, it might not make a lot of sense now, but I've got something planned, something which will hopefully come to fruition and not peter out like a lot of my video projects seem to be doing these days. But anyway, that's something you'll come to see. So, for the time being, we're going to be focusing on the semi-hero storyline of Shadow the Hedgehog. And it's gonna be fun. So, let us not waste any more time and get extreme, dude! And watch as Shadow presumably kills Sonic. Unless, of course, he's just tired. It's so mysterious! Anyway, enjoy the opening cutscene that occurs at the beginning of every pathway of Shadow the Hedgehog. Enjoy!
Shadow the Hedgehog. Why does that name haunt me? It's the only thing I can remember. And that gruesome image. Maria! Who am I? And why can't I remember anything? And who is this Maria? Look how pathetic they are. I don't have time for these humans.
Shadow. As you can see, the day of reckoning will soon be here. Find the 7 Chaos Emeralds and bring them to me as promised.
Huh? Who are you, and how do you know I'm Shadow? And what are you talking about? Just what was that all about? If he says he knows the truth about who I am, then like it or not, I have to believe him. The only way I'm gonna get the secrets to my past is to get those Chaos Emeralds.
So, that's pretty much our story. Aliens suddenly attack, this mysterious creature says, "Give me Chaos Emeralds," and now we are pretty much on to getting them for him, or using the emeralds to find our own answers. Nobody knows but you, Shadow the Hedgehog, and holy crap, this is hitting me. God, this must be what nostalgia feels like, because I was there, man. Like, okay, I'm gonna stop that. I'm mostly gonna be using this first part to really just cover the basic mechanics of Shadow the Hedgehog, although I will go into detail as to why I think the semi-hero storyline is the canon pathway. Because a lot of people often tend to consider the pure hero pathway as the canon one, but I do disagree with that, and I guess later on I'll probably explain why I think that, but again. In terms of basic mechanics, it's pretty much Sonic Adventure, except with a more versatile moveset, I'd say. So I'd say, consider how Sonic and Shadow controlled in Sonic Adventure 2, except this time they have far more options at their disposal. I'll get into the mission structure and everything later, since that is also another prevalent point of Shadow the Hedgehog, but again, again, you can spin dash, you can slide onto crates, which is pretty much merging the somersault move from Sonic Adventure 2, but also including the spin dash into it, which is pretty decent and something that I'll probably comment on a little bit later when it's applicable. Again, as you can tell, this game's main gimmick is of course guns, which again you can fire by pressing the square button. The lock-on the guns is actually surprisingly decent. You have a decent variety of weapons, even though the only ones that people ever seem to talk about is the realistic human military weapons. However, you do also have a bunch of alien weapons that serve similar functions as pistols, machine guns, grenade launchers, rocket launchers. But at the same time, you do also have a few unique weapons, like vacuum guns, and even some of the bonus weapons that you get after completing certain storylines. Again, a lot of these you probably will see as we come to play throughout the game, but yeah, alongside that, you can also take enemies out the traditional way by using a homing attack or spin dash, and honestly, it's honestly one of the things about Shadow's gameplay that I love so much, is that you have so many options at your disposal, and I haven't even gotten into the bloody Chaos Powers, which we'll be getting to quite soon as we fill up the 2 bars there. As you can see, there's one that's blue, one that I don't think you can see quite just yet, but there's also a red Chaos Bar. Fill up the blue one to its most and you'll become invincible, and you can pretty much fire the guns as much as you want, and it won't cost you any ammo, which is strange, because that shouldn't really be happening. But anyway, you can also see the triangle button flashing right over there. What that basically means is that you can unlock a certain ability that the Chaos Power will have. In this case, this will grant you the power of Chaos Control, which allows you to walk throughout the stage and teleport. It does also have a secondary function that you don't unfortunately have access to until the boss fights, but again, it's basically time control. And if you fill up the red gauge to its fullest, you get Chaos Blast, as well as all the additional properties that the blue Chaos Meter has, which is invincibility and an unlimited ammo. But the best thing I like about it is that it's not a system you can really abuse, because you do have to build up the Chaos Meters to its fullest in order to get those extra little perks. So honestly, it's done in a sort of way which I kind of wish the boost feature from the later Sonic games would end up taking inspiration from, but again, maybe that's just me sitting on my soapbox here. So I suppose, with all the basics out of the way, I can now talk about the mission structure. As you can see here, Shadow the Hedgehog also has a wide variety of missions, the main prevalent one of which being kill X amount of enemies, which a lot of people disagree with because this doesn't play as much like a traditional Sonic game, so much as it does a third-person shooter, which a lot of platformer fans weren't really too happy about. This wasn't really so much of an issue for me, personally, because I kind of grew up with a lot of third-person shooters as a kid, so I was pretty much right at home playing Shadow the Hedgehog, and considering how a lot of people felt about the darker and grittier aesthetics, I can see why a lot of people didn't enjoy it as much, but for me, well, I embrace Shadow the Hedgehog with open arms, and it's still the sort of game that I can enjoy to this day, and honestly, not even in this sort of ironic sense of, ooh, it's hee, it's edgy, out the edge, and all that sort of thing that a lot of people tend to be embarrassed about. I mean, again, I can recognize some of its faults and its more outlandish, you know, attempts at trying to be cool, but honestly, to me, it's more endearing than it is something embarrassing, and it's something that I do plan to mention whenever I get around to reviewing Shadow the Hedgehog, which I honestly should have gotten to years ago, but might as well do it now. I really need to get back to reviews anyway, but you know what, I don't care, I just like this game too much. So it's just the paradigm. Anyway, rambles out of the way. Our main enemies, I guess I should... There's so much to talk about with Shadow the Hedgehog, I barely know where to begin. I suppose, in terms of talking about our enemies, it's the dichotomy between the gun soldiers and black arms. And I suppose a little programming quirk, because throughout the game, and something that does become a bit of a problem in terms of storyline as you follow each specific pathway, is that you're pretty much fair game to both gun soldiers and the black arms aliens. So basically what that means is, regardless of what side you ally yourself with, they're still going to be shooting at you, so yeah, Shadow is pretty much fair game. It is kind of explained in an upcoming cutscene that you'll be seeing shortly after this, but yeah, the fact that both sides seem to be attacking you is a bit of a questionable thing, but then again, I think in a better written game it would kind of add to the pathos of Shadow as a character, but then again, I suppose that's something that you'll probably ending up seeing throughout this storyline, because I do feel it's in the semi-hero pathway that it comes the closest to actually having any sort of decent writing, but again, you'll be seeing that soon enough, so enjoy the cutscene and I will take a drink of the Pepsi. Catch you in a little bit.
The black aliens have hit 6 major cities around the world, and every city is reporting significant damage and casualties. Among them, Westopolis has received the heaviest casualties due to its weakened defense system. Downtown Westopolis has been almost completely destroyed. Unconfirmed sources have also reported seeing a black hedgehog in Westopolis.
Shadow? Deploy the troops now! And if you find Shadow with the black aliens, then kill them all.
But sir, isn't Shadow on our
I
side?
gave you an order, soldier. He's evil and he's the enemy. You can't fool me, Shadow. This time, you're mine.
Now that was sweet, Shadow.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to save you.
Thought you might say something like that. How about a little friendly competition?
Don't waste my time.
We found the 3rd Chaos Emerald in this city. Our mission here is done. Now get going.
Guess that means welcome to the next level. Let's go!
Get back here.
So, as you can probably tell with the cutscene before the one we just saw, yeah, the Gun Commander has a bit of a beef with Shadow. Which is honestly one of my biggest problems with the writing. And it also comes down to the fact that both this game's gift and curse is the multiple pathway system. I mean, in terms of the Gun Commander's character, it's a character that I kind of liken to Anne Cunningham from Silent Hill Downpour, which is something that I'll probably get to later on in the game, because it's really with this storyline that they ever confront the Gun Commander's beef with Shadow in a way that has a certain gravitas to it. Because something about Shadow's storyline, the way in which it's handled in the multiple pathway system, is that depending on which path you take, certain plot elements are dropped and taken up at the most random of intervals at the drop of a hat. And as a result, I think that's, I mean, again, beyond the superficial complaints of those platformers shouldn't be dark and edgy, they need to be Fuzzles the Who Gives a Shit Wombat in fucking flying Care Bear Donut Land shit. Again, I'll deal with all the whole sort of edgy complaints later, but I think in terms of legitimate grievances with Shadow's plot, it's that a lot of what it wants to do is tackle some of the heavier dramatic stuff, while also maintaining that, you know, sort of cool factor that the Sonic series has always been known for. It never quite finds a middle ground that, or at least not in the same way that Sonic Adventure 2 did, and I think that mostly has to do with having Takashi Iizuka on the writing duties of the game, which, you know, I don't want to insult the man like so many other people have, but he does tend to be a little bit scatterbrained when it comes to his decision-making in terms of the Sonic series. And considering that he was heavily involved in the creation of this game, as well as Shadow as a character, it does make itself known, I'll say that much. Anyway, I suppose to give commentary on the level itself that we're playing, Lethal Highway is actually a pretty decent Sonic design stage, which I think probably would appeal to more players than Westopolis did. Because your 2 missions is to chase down the tank, which is something that you need to destroy, which, again, I think appeals more to the speed-based gameplay that most Sonic fans want. Or you have a Get to the Goal Ring mission, which is, again, standard fare that you've seen before. You go through loops, you try and navigate your way through structures. While Shadow the Hedgehog does have more of a third-person shooter vibe to it, it does mix itself in with a few Sonic elements, which I think work to a certain extent, although it's clear that some levels were more so designed with that mentality than others who tended to focus more on the third-person shooter aspect. Which is actually a very interesting note in its history, because the game was initially designed to more so resemble a game like Ratchet & Clank than a traditional Sonic game, which is where I feel a lot of the grievances tend to come in. I don't know, it's very interesting, and the development history of Shadow is a little bit sketchy to say the least, because, I mean, it's one of the least covered Sonic games that I really know about, or at least in terms of solid information, because the most we really have to go on is interviews that were there at the time, which you can't really find now. I seem to remember there was, like, back in 2005, there was, like, this Yahoo interview with Takashi Iizuka who talked about the game's development, but you can't find it anymore. I don't know, it's a little bit disappointing, but again, I'm only really going off my memories and, I guess, whatever the Sonic Wiki had kind of saved up. I don't know, and considering the fact that Shadow the Hedgehog is a really hated game in the Sonic series anyway that Sega has tried to bury, I don't think we're going to be getting anything more related to this game anytime soon.
Hand over that Chaos Emerald, or else.
So, think you have a chance against me, do you?
Look, I don't take orders, especially from you. But I'm not here to fight you either. I'm collecting the emeralds to find my own answers, so why don't you just back off?
You still don't know your place, do you? Black Bull, I summon you! Behold, the wrath of Black Arms!
Woohoo! Now we're talking! Bring it on!
Now, while I feel I probably should have brought it up with a previous cutscene, there is something about the writing which does bother me with Takashi Iizuka, and it's really down to how, in a lot of the cases, especially the pure hero storyline and pure dark storyline, I feel as if he really kind of regressed the character portrayal. I mean, in Sonic Heroes and Sonic Adventure 2, when it was written by Shiro Maekawa, and especially with Ekanori Nishiyama with Sonic Adventure 1, I feel it was okay because the characters, while they did retain that sort of traits, I feel like here, Sonic especially, was kind of dumbed down. Like, I mean, yeah, he did always have that sort of excitable puppy, let's take him on, but for whatever reason, he just has this laugh that goes like, because you'd never be able to tell that I'm excitable because I laugh all the time. I don't know. It's a bit of a quirk in the writing that I have a bit of a problem with, but anyway, to talk about the boss fight against Black Bull, yeah, I like it. He's a complete joke if you use guns, but again, it's part of Shadow the Hedgehog's gameplay philosophy that I really do love. Multiple ways to attack a boss. You can either attack him traditionally and, you know, it takes a little while, but you can still do it. Or you can find a way to get some guns and go to town on him. And here is also where you'll be demonstrating the next Chaos Power. Well, I mean, I didn't show off the other one initially because I mostly used the invincibility and limited ammo function, but here you're going to be seeing, honestly, an ability that I kind of wish you could toggle on and off. Because here you can slow down time, whilst also retaining the invincibility and unlimited ammo sort of thing about it. Again, it really does make the Chaos Powers really useful, and I'm very saddened to see them not return in any other Sonic game. I don't know, it's just cool, man. And I just wish you had the, like, maybe you could have toggled them with, like, L1 or something or other, or maybe assigning them beforehand, like a skill set that Sonic and the Secret Rings would eventually end up doing. I don't know. I mean, in terms of bosses, I think Black Bull is probably a pretty decent well, not really that much of a challenge, although his attacks can... It can sneak attack you sometimes, but honestly, decent first boss, I'd say. Anyway, that about wraps it up for part 1 of Shadow the Hedgehog. There's gonna be no real ending card with the rock and music. Unless, of course, I possibly use the ending of Shadow the Hedgehog, but anyway. I'm Solidus Skully, keep it new metal, and tune in next time for more of the semi-hero pathway of Shadow the Hedgehog. Bye-bye.